Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to take a look at my lifting belt, do a quick review on the SBD lever belt, and just in general talk about what you should look for whenever it comes to finding a lifting belt of your own for specifically powerlifting and potentially strongman or any other strength sport. So, first off, we need to establish what does a lifting belt do. Now, if you're not familiar with what a lifting belt does, go ahead and check out my other video. Maybe I'll link it above that talks about bracing and how to properly brace for a squat, bench, and deadlift. Long story short, the belt is not only going to allow you to lift a heavier load and therefore become stronger in the long run, it's also going to help you build your core muscles and in general be safer as a lifter as long as you use it properly. Now, in the context of powerlifting, okay, the dimensions that the belt needs to be in the powerlifting rulebook is it cannot be any thicker than 4 inches, and then the actual belt width here, or I guess I said that backwards, width of 4 inches, and then the thickness can't be any more than 13 millimeters. So when you're looking for a belt of your own, you're going to see belts listed as either usually 10 millimeters or 13. In my opinion, I always go with the 13 millimeter thickness. I've used 10s before, and all it seems to be is the same thing but slightly less support. So I don't know why you would go for less, in my opinion. Now, there's two specific types of belts that you can get. One is a prong belt, which operates a whole lot like a work belt that you might use. Basically, you put the prong in the holes, and that's how you tighten the belt. I used that for a couple years of my lifting career, and it worked fantastic. The only downside to a prong belt is that it can be hard to get it appropriately tight if you like to wear your belt really tight. Early in my lifting career, I did wear my belt very tight, and that was a struggle point. But as I've grown and matured, I've realized that, the tightness of the belt isn't as big of a deal. So if I were to go back to that, then I probably wouldn't have an issue getting the belt as tight as it needs to be. The second type is what's called a lever belt. And looking at this SBD lever belt, essentially you're going to set the lever wherever you need it around your torso, and then you can use this lever system to tighten it even more, which is very helpful because then you don't need other people or a squat rack to help you get the belt as tight as you want, because the lever reinforces it. Now, going to the SBD belt specifically, this lever system is fairly unique, where you can adjust between holes, and I think this is 1 inch difference between each hole, and they have, if I had to guess, probably about 15 different adjustments here that you could use. And why I really like this is because I can basically start with the belt looser in my earlier warm-up sets, and then as I get to heavier and heavier weights, I will tighten the belt along until I get to my competition or heavyweight tightness, so to speak. So that's an upside to this design of a lever belt. Most other levers that you'll see from companies like Titan or Inzer, you will have to use a screwdriver to adjust where the lever is. So you cannot utilize different tightnesses within your workout unless you use your screwdriver and adjust it that way. So that's a big pro for this SBD lever belt. In general, right, as long as you have a belt within those specifications that I talked about, 13 millimeter, 4 inches in width, then you're going to be totally good, right? A belt is something basic. In my opinion, right? I would rather spend, and I will say I am sponsored by SBD, so I have a bit of a bias, but I have had this belt since before I was sponsored by them. So I purchased this back in 2016, whenever their new lever belts just came out. It was one of the first runs. And so I do have money invested in this, and it was the right choice. I spent over $200 on belt, but it has lasted me at this point over 7 years, and I don't see any point in switching. And that's something else you'll notice with a high quality lever belt or high quality leather, okay? It'll start to form to you. You'll notice it has these curves where it has conformed to my body, and it fits me like a glove, so to speak. But with that said, if you're getting a new belt, fully expect it to hurt. I'm pretty sure the first couple of months that I had this, I had a bruised rib because it did not conform to my body like it does now. And that was something I just had to put up with. But that break-in process, as it's called, kind of pays off in the long run, because that high quality leather molds to you, and then you don't have to do it again for at least a decade, right? The last thing I'll say here is on the idea of prong versus lever. I did give mostly pros to the lever because of the adjustability, but the prong belt's going to be probably more reliable. I have seen levers break, and yes, this is a new lever. Basically, I had one of these bolts come out a little bit, and then I tried to latch it shut and I bent it because I swatted with it that way. But the great thing about SBD, and why I think they are the most superior company in powerlifting, is I just emailed them and they got a new lever sent out to me within the week, and it was as easy as just swapping out. And that old lever lasted 6 years. It was this year that I had to switch this out. But I've heard the same issue with plenty of other lifters who use lever belts, not necessarily SBD belts, but Strength Shot, Inzer, Titan. Those, I've seen issues where the lever physically breaks, like the metal breaks, because it's a cast iron, and they have to replace it, or they cut themselves, things like that. That is obviously something that you don't have to worry about with a prong belt, okay? So, final thoughts here on choosing a belt for powerlifting and the SBD belt as well. If you're just starting out, any belt should do. I started with just a brown leather belt from my high school's gym, right? I borrowed it. And then as you get more advanced in the sport and you're ready to put down some money to invest in a belt, keep in mind this is like your best friend, right? As a power lifter, there's no other piece of equipment that I would trade out in place of my belt if I could only have one thing. This would be it. So I just say drop the money up front, get a good one with a brand that you trust, right? In my case, it's SBD. This will probably be the belt for the rest of my life, okay? And if it breaks for whatever reason, I'll get another SBD belt. But like I said, I'm biased, and that's my personal opinion. There are plenty of other great brands that you could get if you wanted to spend a little less money, but my opinion is invest in one and it'll last. Okay, so hopefully that was helpful as far as an overview of what to look for in your powerlifting belt and taking a look at my belt as well. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Drop a comment down below. What powerlifting belt do you use, or are you looking to get a new one? I'd like to know. Okay, so thank you all for tuning in, and until next time, happy lifting.